The station lights buzzed weakly overhead. Every passenger inside the train was staring at Ethan now. Dozens of faces, silent, waiting. The pale blue light spilling from the open doors reflected across the wet platform floor like cold water. Ethan could feel the attention pressing against him. Not anger, not hatred. Something worse. Understanding. As though the passengers already knew every lonely thought he had ever hidden from the world. The exhausting routine, the empty apartment, the nights that blurred together, the quiet feeling that his life had somehow paused years ago without him noticing. The train understood all of it, and for one dangerous moment, Ethan understood why people stepped inside willingly. No more struggling, no more drifting through endless identical days. Only silence, only rest. The thought entered his mind softly, almost kindly. You could leave everything behind. The blue light near the doorway pulsed again. Warm, gentle, inviting. Ethan took a small, unconscious step forward. The girl grabbed his wrist immediately. "Don't listen to it." Her voice sounded far away, like something fighting through heavy fog. The passengers continued staring. Some looked sad, some looked peaceful, and some looked relieved. Ethan suddenly noticed something terrifying. Many of them were still wearing ordinary clothes from the lives they left behind. Office uniforms, school jackets, winter coats wet from old rainstorms. They had entered the train during completely normal nights, just like this one. The brother inside the train looked toward the girl again. Then he quietly said, "You were lonely too." The words hit her harder than Ethan expected. She lowered her eyes immediately. Pain crossed her face, real pain, not fear of the train, fear that the sentence was true. The brother's expression softened slightly. "You don't have to be anymore." The train lights flickered gently behind him. Passengers near the windows remained perfectly still, watching, listening, waiting. Ethan realized the train never forced anyone. It simply offered escape. And maybe that was why it was so dangerous. The metallic voice from the broken announcement system suddenly crackled overhead again. Static burst across the station. Then, through the interference, a fragmented sentence emerged. "Final departure." The sound distorted violently before cutting out. The train doors began closing. Slowly, the girl inhaled sharply. Her brother stepped backward into the pale blue light. Not resisting, not asking again, just returning quietly to his seat beside the window. The doors continued sliding shut between them. Ethan looked around the station. The passengers who had entered moments earlier now sat silently inside the train too. Already still, already distant, as though the station had forgotten them, as though the world itself had already begun erasing them. The girl suddenly moved, not toward the train, but toward the edge of the platform, toward her brother's window. The doors sealed shut completely. The train remained motionless for one final moment. The girl placed her hand softly against the cold glass. Her brother looked at her from the other side. Neither smiled, neither spoke. There were no dramatic final words, no promises, no miracle. Only two people separated by something neither of them could cross anymore. Then, very slowly, her brother lifted his hand and pressed it against the glass opposite hers. For the first time since the train arrived, emotion appeared clearly on his face. Not happiness, not sadness, acceptance. The pale blue lights inside the train dimmed further. The station lights flickered violently again, and the train began moving. Slowly at first, metal groaned beneath the wheels. The girl kept her hand against the glass as long as possible while the train rolled forward. Her brother disappeared window by window into the darkness. The silent passengers passed by one after another, watching, always watching, until finally the last car vanished into the tunnel. Gone, the station became quiet again. Normal quiet, not the heavy silence from before, just an ordinary station after midnight. The electronic schedule board restarted suddenly. Train times reappeared. Announcements resumed. Somewhere nearby a phone rang. Life returned all at once, as if nothing had happened. The girl slowly lowered her hand from the empty air. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Ethan noticed something strange. The deep, cold feeling inside his chest, the feeling that had followed him for days, was gone. Not completely, but lighter somehow. The girl looked down the dark tunnel one last time. Then she said quietly, "It won't come back for a while now." Ethan stared at the empty tracks. "How do you know?" The girl gave a faint, tired smile. The kind people wear after finally putting down something heavy. Then she answered, "Because tonight, we chose to stay." The station slowly emptied after that. Passengers returned to their ordinary lives without understanding how close they had come to leaving them behind. A businessman hurried toward the exit while checking emails. Two students laughed nervously about the weird power outage. The station employee reopened the ticket booth and complained about electrical problems into his radio. Normal explanations were already rebuilding the night. That was how people survived strange things. They folded them into ordinary memories until they no longer hurt. Ethan and the girl remained on platform 4 a little longer. The rain outside had finally stopped. Water still dripped softly from the station roof. The tracks reflected pale silver light, stretching endlessly into the tunnel. For the first time in days, Ethan no longer felt afraid of looking at them. The girl sat quietly on the bench again, the same bench where Ethan had first seen her. Only now, she looked different somehow, lighter, not happy, but no longer trapped inside waiting. After several minutes, Ethan finally spoke. "What happens now?" The girl thought about the question carefully. Then she shrugged slightly. "Tomorrow comes, I guess." A small laugh escaped Ethan before he could stop it. Not because the answer was funny, because it sounded surprisingly difficult. Tomorrow. Going back to work. Going home. Continuing ordinary life after standing beside something impossible. The girl looked toward him. "That's harder than people think." Ethan nodded slowly. He understood now. The train was not really about death, or ghosts, or disappearing. It was about surrender, about the quiet temptation to stop trying. And maybe everyone encountered that train eventually. Not always on tracks, not always at midnight, but somewhere in life, people reached moments where giving up felt strangely peaceful. That was why the passengers looked so calm. The realization stayed with Ethan as they sat together in silence. A cleaning machine hummed faintly somewhere farther down the station. The first early morning train announcement echoed through the speakers. 4:58 a.m. Morning was approaching. The girl stood up slowly and adjusted her gray coat. "I should go." Ethan looked at her. Until that moment, he realized he had never asked her name. Maybe part of him had been afraid to. Afraid that knowing names would make everything feel too real. "Wait," he said quietly. What's your name? The girl paused. Then, for the first time since they met, she smiled gently. A real smile this time. Small, tired, human. Mina. Ethan repeated the name silently to himself. Mina nodded once toward him. Then she walked toward the exit stairs. Halfway there, she stopped briefly without turning around. You should take a different train home sometimes, she said softly. Then she disappeared upstairs. Ethan remained alone on platform 4. The station no longer felt suspended between worlds. It was just a station again. Cold lights, old concrete, tired people waiting for trains. Ordinary. And somehow that felt comforting now. Several minutes later, a morning train arrived normally. Bright lights, half-empty seats, sleepy passengers carrying coffee cups. The doors opened with a familiar mechanical sound. Ethan looked inside. No silent faces, no pale blue light, no one watching him through the windows. Just people, living people. He stepped inside. The doors closed behind him. As the train pulled away from the station, Ethan looked out the window one last time. Platform 4 slowly disappeared into the distance. For a brief second, he thought about all the nights he had spent drifting through life, without noticing. Working, sleeping, repeating the same empty routines, waiting for something to change on its own. But nothing changes on its own. People choose. Even staying is a choice. The train entered the first tunnel beneath the waking city. Darkness briefly filled the windows. Then morning light appeared on the other side. Soft, gray, real. And for the first time in years, Ethan was no longer in a hurry to get home.